Hi, you're tuned into Why America? I'm Leeja Miller. Let's get started. On Friday, May 9th, the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, 𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏, visited the Delaney Hall facility, an immigration detention center in his city of Newark. He was there with three members of the U.S. House of Representatives from New Jersey, 𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏, Rob Menendez, and 𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏. The three representatives showed up without warning because, according to 𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏, they planned to inspect the facility. According to 𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏, he was present to participate in a press conference with the three members of Congress. What happened on the ground has been subject to a lot of different interpretations, but video footage was released of part of the incident, so let's watch.
Mr. Mayor, anyone that is not a congresswoman or man needs to step out and so last warning, you will be placed on arrest.
Don't rush in. Don't rush in. Don't, please.
Clear the gate. Back up.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Where's my congresswoman? Where's my congresswoman?
That was the official body cam footage released by Trump's Department of Homeland Security. According to 𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, he entered the facility with the three members of Congress to do an inspection. He was asked to leave. He did leave, and then a few moments later, ICE came back out onto the public sidewalk and arrested him for trespassing. During the arrest, protesters tried to stop ICE by surrounding the mayor, and Representative 𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 can be seen in the video yelling, "Don't touch me," and either being shoved around or doing the shoving. It's unclear with that many bodies in chaos. Like, you genuinely cannot tell where the force of movement is coming from. According to 𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 herself, she was, quote, assaulted by multiple ICE officers while regional directors of ICE watched it happen. And for the record, the other congresswoman on the ground, 𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 lots of media spin coming from the Trump administration is a great example of how the bias in the media you consume can impact your interpretation of events. For example, if I saw this headline on Town Hall, New Jersey mayor arrested at ICE facility as Democrat lawmakers storm gates in political stunt, that would give me a very specific right-leaning idea about the incident. The Ground News browser extension provides context, and I can see how other sources are framing the story by clicking full coverage. On the Ground News website, you can see that there are 375 sources covering this topic. Among them, left-leaning 𝗦𝗦𝗦𝗏 uses the headline, "Chilling Reminder of Where We Are. Officials condemn disturbing arrest of Newark mayor," while far-right The Western Journal frames it as, "Another promise kept. Trump DHS arrests Dem mayor at ICE facility." These are very different takes on the same story, and a clear example of how consuming news from only one perspective can limit your understanding of a situation. And this is where Ground News comes in, and why I've been using them for over a year. Today's partner, Ground News, is an app and website that offers tools to help you critically analyze the news you read, providing context to understand the full picture. By using the Ground News Vantage subscription, I can also see the blind spot feed, where I can see stories disproportionately covered by one side of the political spectrum. For example, only one right-leaning news source is covering the headline, "Israel's blockade means Gaza's hospitals cannot provide food to recovering patients." Interesting. I feel better equipped to make sense of what's happening in the world without being influenced by just one perspective. And listen, I'm not the only one who loves Ground News. The Nobel Peace Center even called it an excellent way to stay informed, avoid echo chambers, and expand your worldview. I'm always really impressed with Ground News and genuinely think they're a great resource. If you want to stay informed on US politics and more, subscribe through this QR code or the link below at ground.news/Leeja for 40% off this unlimited access Vantage plan. It comes out to $5 a month for unlimited access to all the features I've mentioned. Thanks, Ground News. According to Trump regime DHS spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin, quote, "We actually have body camera footage of some of these members of Congress assaulting these ICE enforcement officers, including body slamming a female ICE officer." That's just, her face looks like that's how she would speak. She then cited to the body cam video we just watched as proof that these lawmakers were storming the ICE facility and body slamming ICE officers. And listen, while I think the situation is complicated, arrested, you cannot watch that footage and conclude that anyone was body slamming anyone. And like, yes, I am going to look up the official definition of body slam, because if you're a government spokesperson making accusations against sitting members of Congress, I am going to hold you to the words you say. According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, the definition of body slam is, quote, a wrestling throw in which the opponent's body is lifted and brought down hard to the mat. Calling anything that happened during that incident a body slam is a gross misrepresentation at best. Unless you're talking about the moment where it appears a protester is thrown onto the ground by an ICE agent. Is that the body slamming you were talking about, Trisha? Of course not. Tricia McLaughlin later shared a slowed down video of the incident, the veracity of which I do not know, showing Congresswoman 𝗦𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 and this is, quote, assault against our ICE law enforcement agents. And let's not beat around the bush here, because the fact that 𝗦𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 is a black woman is absolutely a factor in how lil white lady Tricia McLaughlin is trying to frame this issue. In the slowed down video, you can see Congresswoman McIver pull her arm away from someone who is trying to grab her. You can see her shove or be shoved into an ICE officer, though there is another ICE officer very close behind her. So again, it is very hard to tell who is doing the shoving. And that footage absolutely shows ICE agents grabbing, shoving, pushing, and assaulting the people around them as well. But it is playing on the angry black woman trope and betting that because we're all stupid, our eyes will just gravitate to the red blazer she's wearing and not notice the man shoving her from behind as well. And even if she is the one doing the shoving, which again, it is asinine to look at a throng of people and point to someone in the middle and say, yep, that person is definitely the one doing the shoving. Case closed. Even if that is true, to characterize this as an assault, given how the 20 or so heavily armed and masked ICE officers are acting around her, or as her body slamming anyone, is state propaganda at its finest. And judging by the comments on Twitter, a fair few people fell for it. Mayor 𝗓𝗡𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧 was released from custody later that evening, though federal prosecutors are pursuing trespassing charges against him, and he has a court appearance scheduled for this Thursday. In an interview with CNN on Saturday, DHS spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin again said, quote, there will likely be more arrests coming, stoking fears that the 3 members of Congress who were present that day could be subject to arrest. Border czar and 𝗬𝗓𝗪𝗧𝗏 lookalike contest winner Tom Homan, seen here watching a baby getting torn out of the arms of its immigrant mother, told Fox News, who must keep a cot for him out somewhere in the back because that man is always giving them sound bites, that the members of Congress impeded immigration enforcement. An important argument to highlight, because I am certain this won't be the last time we hear the argument that members of Congress or some other person protesting against ICE was impeding immigration enforcement and trespassing as a pretext for politically motivated prosecutions. Congressman Rob Menendez, who was also on the ground that day, later pointed out, quote, no matter what this administration tells the American people, the law is very clear. Members of Congress have a legal right to enter any DHS detention facility to conduct oversight without prior notice, something I've done twice this year without issue. That was a tweet which also included a highlighted section of the law he's referencing, Public Law 118, which states that the funds appropriated for DHS may not be used to prevent members of Congress from entering their facilities, including detention centers, even without notice. That being said, members of Congress are not immune to arrest for criminal conduct, even while on the job, which is why DHS and Trump officials are doubling down on the argument that these members of Congress impeded law enforcement and assaulted ICE officers because they can't get them for trespassing, like they did with Mayor Baraka, so they have to come up with something else criminal as pretext for their arrests. According to the members of Congress and Mayor Baraka, the mayor was present to participate in a press conference. They had been there for almost 2 hours before the incident occurred, and Mayor Baraka was waiting outside for them because he knew he could not enter the facility. Representative Watson Coleman, who again is 80 years old, stated that the filmed confrontation occurred after the members of Congress had concluded their visit inside the facility. According to reporting from MSNBC, witnesses at the scene said Mayor Baraka attempted to join the congressional delegation to enter the facility, but he was told he could not because he was not a member of Congress, which is when he agreed to move to the public side of the fence before he was arrested. Again, It's very possible the mayor showed up, attempted to enter the facility. When he received pushback from ICE, we do not know how he responded off camera. There are competing accounts, but the footage we do have shows him agreeing peacefully to leave the premises and go to the public sidewalk. Now, unless there's a section of the law I haven't seen, which is very possible because contrary to what some people in my comment section seem to think, I have not actually read every single law ever written, but I do try to do my due diligence, okay? So as far as I can tell, it's true that Mayor Baraka did not have a right to be there in the same way that Congress members had a statutorily recognized right to show up unannounced to see the facility. The federal trespass law applies where anyone knowingly enters another person's land without permission. Technically, it could maybe be argued that that's what happened here. That being said, context matters in the law. This is the mayor of the largest city in New Jersey who is accompanied by 3 sitting members of Congress. To decide to move forward with actual arrest and then federal prosecution, especially considering he did leave the premises when asked, as is shown by video evidence, is not normal, because typically the DOJ at least attempts to avoid the appearance of impropriety or politically motivated prosecutions. There was no property damage. There were no actual injuries reported. There is no necessity for the public good that this prosecution move forward, especially given the appearances of political motivation. So just so we're clear, no one is above the law, but the law does tread lightly where elected officials are concerned, at least in theory. But we live in the upside down now, so the mayor of the largest city in New Jersey was arrested and is being prosecuted for entering and then peaceably leaving a facility while accompanying a congressional delegation. And this is important for a number of reasons. The more we see elected officials, judges, mayors, governors getting arrested or threatened with arrest, the more it normalizes that image. It paints a picture of widespread corruption within the government, which feeds into the Republican narrative that the government is filled with corruption that must be rooted out through drastic measures, even though it's the Democrats getting arrested while the Republicans accept, multi-million-dollar jets from Qatar and other foreign emoluments. They enrich themselves off their government positions. They collude with billionaires. They do all sorts of other blatantly corrupt activities. So it's important to call out that this is incredibly concerning from the perspective of the basic preservation of democracy and decorum. It's also harrowing how frequently we are getting bombarded with videos of ICE agents forcibly arresting people, whether it's the mayor of Newark or the recent video out of Worcester, Massachusetts of a woman being forcibly arrested on the sidewalk, which I won't share here because frankly it's upsetting. I did have a little cry about it this weekend and I'm not interested in exploiting what is likely one of the worst moments of this family's life. And as organizer Iriam Martinez, who was present the day of the Delaney Hall incident, told the Washington Post, quote, "If they're doing this and assaulting congresspeople in front of cameras and in front of the community, imagine what DHS is doing to violate the rights of immigrants out of sight." It's also important because of the underlying context of this arrest of Ross Baraka. Mayor Ross Baraka is a Democrat who is running for governor of New Jersey. The primary is next month, and there are 6 people running to fill the Democratic nomination, all polling within a few percentage points of each other. Ross Baraka has been described as the most progressive candidate in the race. Given how much of a pain in the ass Democratic governors have been to the Trump regime, it makes sense that they'd want to cull the most progressive of the bunch to avoid another progressive state pushing back against them. Does that mean that this was some sort of coordinated effort to frame Ross Baraka by arresting him on that day? No, I don't think so. But I do think the Trump regime sees this as a convenient means of taking down at least one progressive politician and potentially 3 sitting members of Congress as well through misrepresentation, defamation, and propaganda. Another important detail, Delaney Hall, the immigrant detention center where the altercation took place, is under a new management agreement. According to reporting from the Washington Post, Delaney Hall opened in 2000 to house federal, state, and county detainees. From 2011 through 2017, it was used as an ICE detention facility to house up to 450 immigrants. Since 2018, lawmakers and leaders in New Jersey have been pushing to prevent public jails and local police from cooperating with federal government immigration enforcement. And in 2021, a law was enacted that prohibited New Jersey from renewing or creating new detention contracts with ICE. Numerous private prison operators sued to get the ban struck down as unconstitutional, and in 2023, a federal district judge ruled that parts of the ban violated the U.S. Constitution. That case is ongoing, as the New Jersey Attorney General has appealed that ruling, arguing that the 10th Amendment prohibits the federal government from commandeering state resources for its purposes, according to the Washington Post. Then in February, DHS entered a 15-year, $1 billion contract with private prison company GEO Group to manage a 1,000-bed immigrant detention center there. GEO GEO Group confirmed that they began housing detainees there on May 1st. According to the Washington Post, quote, community and elected leaders have accused ICE and GEO Group of abuse and neglect of detainees. They accused the company of maintaining horrible conditions that verged on the inhumane. There is no evidence the owners have adequately fixed the dilapidated building sitting in the center of an area known as Chemical Corridor for its environmental pollution. And as the largest immigrant detention center now on the East Coast, its close proximity to airports also has advocates alarmed, given the Trump administration's proclivity for whisking away detainees onto planes faster than judges can respond to complaints, and then claiming it's totally out of their hands and they can't do anything now. Oops. As mayor of Newark, where the center is located, 𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗧 sued GEO Group, alleging that the group didn't have proper building permits and lacked a valid certificate of occupancy, among other things. The city has requested that a federal judge block the opening of the center and allow city officials inside to inspect for compliance with local, state, and administrative codes. 𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗧 has been a vocal opponent of the opening of Delaney Hall, including speaking to protesters in support of barring its opening back in March. So his arrest is a continuation of ICE retaliation against anyone standing in the way of their operations, as he was a very public face of resistance to the opening of the largest detention center on the East Coast. All of these details matter, and they paint a pretty damning picture of the way this administration is using this incident to further their policy goals and continue their pattern of persecuting their political opponents. I'm not even going to call this an escalation because I think it's a continuation at this point. Things have escalated, and they're continuing to be bad. There is no way that this is the final incident of a very public-facing protester or public official being arrested and then smeared by the regime of one of the most powerful countries on earth. That has major consequences for democracy and a chilling effect that reverberates across communities, not just for elected officials. If you've seen this video or other videos of ICE arrests and want to know how to help, there's so many ways to get involved, but I want to direct you to a resource called the Defend and Recruit Playbook, defendandrecruit.org. It's created by 𝗬𝗪𝗏, North Carolina, an immigrants' rights organization out of North Carolina, and this playbook helps immigrants and non-immigrants form community and build ICE watch groups, among so many other things. It is a wealth of information and a great guide for getting started to help know your rights or defend your neighbors from increased ICE activities. A couple key points I saw across a number of immigrants' rights platforms that I wanted to highlight. Do openly film ICE if you see them in public, but be sure you are standing a few feet away from them and are not concealing your phone. Some states have laws against secretly filming anyone. Do be sure to report ICE sightings to your local ICE Watch network if you don't have one. That's where the Defend and Recruit Playbook comes in. If you attempt to interfere with an arrest or conceal an immigrant from law enforcement, you could be held criminally liable. This is not legal advice. I'm just stating facts for informational purposes only. Do what you want. I'm not your lawyer. If you want to support my work, all my videos are completely ad-free and uncensored over on Patreon, patreon.com/Leeja Miller. Thank you to my multi-platinum patrons, Mark, Thomas Orff, Sarah Shelby, Art, David, RH, Latranger Lucas, Joshua Cole, Thomas Johnson, and Tay. Your generosity makes this channel what it is, so thank you. And if you liked this episode, you liked the one from last week about the military trans ban. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day. Bye-bye.